Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today we're gonna be, wait a minute, why am I wearing a helmet inside? Oh, yeah, that's right. Today we're gonna be talking about Mips and is it worth the money to invest for your cycling equipment? Or is it a complete scam? Or what even is Mips? So that's what I'm here to do today, is to explain to you what's the point of Mips, is it worth the money, and if you should buy it or not. So let's get right into this video, guys. So I'm going to tell you guys what Mips is in 4 sentences, okay? Mips is a brain protection system. Rotational motion can cause brain injuries. The low friction layers allow a sliding motion of 10 to 15 millimeters in all directions, reducing the rotational motion transmitted to the brain during impact, and Mips adds protection. So the two main forces when you do experience a crash is a linear force and a rotational force. Now, a linear force is when you, as the cyclist, with a helmet, come into contact with something and you hit it head on. And there's no movement whatsoever. So it's just a straight impact. Now, that's called a linear force. Now, what helmets are typically designed to do is, let's say this is the branch, because that's what we have in the picture, and your helmet comes into contact. Now, the helmet, because it's acting as your second skull, is going to reduce the energy transfer from the impact through your helmet so your head doesn't get the brunt of the impact. Pretty simple, right? So the second force, which is the force you usually experience, and it's a combination of linear forces as well, intertwined with it, is called rotational forces. And that's when your brain comes into a sudden stop and can get twisted inside the skull. And the body's main primary defense for counteracting that is your cerebral spinal fluid, which act as a layer to redirect the impact forces so your brain doesn't take the brunt of the impact. So it allows your brain to independently move within the skull. So it's not absorbing all of that energy from the crash. And that's called a slip plane. So basically, if you're following along, what Mips is actually doing is something called biomimicry. So it's basically doing what your skull's cerebral spinal fluid, which is acting as a layer to allow your brain to independently move in a case of an impact so it doesn't get twisted inside the skull of the brain, and it's making sure that it does that within the helmet. So I look at the helmet, the analogy that I'm going to use so you guys can, kind of take the sciencey parts and make it a little bit more practical, is think of the skull as think of the helmet as your skull. So this is my skull, okay? The cerebral spinal fluid, which is the membrane that protects my brain from twisting, that's Mips technology, okay? So I'm going to show you guys here. I'm a little blurred, but you see when I go like this? You see how that's actually moving? You see that right there? See how I'm holding the helmet firm and this is moving inside? So that's called a slip plane, and that allows your head, okay, your actual skull, to rotate independently on an angled impact, which is rotational, and that's redirecting the energy. So instead of your head being isolated and boom, or even sideways boom, like with the impact of the helmet hits, but because the inside plane, which is Mips, allows your head to slightly move, it reduces the brunt, the majority of the impact. So obviously this isn't, you're still gonna experience an impact, obviously, like you're hitting something, right? But the severity and the impact force is gonna be greatly reduced because your brain is allowed to independently move, which reduces and redirects the energy of the crash. So the real world example is if you throw a tennis ball on cement or even asphalt, okay? Normal sidewalk, whatever. Since there's a lot of friction, when the ball bounces back, that friction creates rotational force. And that's what actually propels the ball to come back with energy, right? Now, if we take that tennis ball and throw it on ice, because ice or another surface that has less friction, there's going to be fewer twisting forces, and that force is redirected, and that's called a slip plane. So on impact, it's slipping, so then the friction can't actually not increase, but carry that rotational force with it. It reduces it because it's a different plane, one with less friction. And that's basically what Mips technology in that inner liner is, just a simple slip plane, but it's mimicry, it's biomimicry of the slip plane that we have inside of our skulls, which is the cerebrospinal fluid. So I like to think of Mips as an elastomeric attachment system, and like I said, it just attaches within the helmet and creates a slip plane so that your brain doesn't experience rotating forces, and reduces the impact force that your head might experience in a crash. So you might be asking, how much does it actually move? And the answer to that is about 10 to 15 centimeters is actually how much it moves. So not a lot within the helmet, but that 10 to 15 millimeters in all direction is what reduces the rotational motion transmitted to the brain during impact. And that goes back to the Mips in 4 sentences, is that it allows your brain just enough movement that it reduces the rotational motion, the rotational impact forces that are experienced to the brain during impact. Okay? So, simple terms, okay? Mips allows your brain, allows your skull, okay, to move independently from the helmet when it comes into a hard impact, because your brain will experience rotational forces, no linear forces, rotational forces. You need your brain to move independently, because if it can't move independently, if it doesn't have Mips or a type of system that creates a slip plane which reduces the rotational force, you're going to experience that rotational force on your brain. So I'm going to play this video back, and it's really important that you guys really see a visual representation of this, because it is hard to explain. So, well, with just words, right? Or even pictures. So you'll see the helmet hits and moves, right? It absorbs the rotational energy that initially comes with the impact. Now the slip plane, which is the yellow part, that's the Mips layer, okay? Slip plane, that's what it's technically called, but that's the Mips layer. Now the Mips layer responds to that rotational energy, and now instead of your head experiencing that, Mips is redirecting that force because it can move independently from the helmet. So helmet takes the brunt of the impact, but there's still energy left over. So without Mips, your head would take the rest of that impact, but now that the rest of the impact, Mips is absorbing, and with that movement of the layer, it's dispersing that rotational energy so your head doesn't get it. So very simple, if your head, okay, doesn't have Mips, after the brunt of the impact is absorbed by your helmet, because you don't have Mips, your head's gonna get sore and injured, your brain's gonna be injured, depending on the force of the impact, because there's no other plane or anything else to absorb that impact other than your skull. But in this situation, because you have Mips, okay, the impact is absorbed, the brunt of the impact is absorbed by your helmet, but there's still energy left over. But then Mips, instead of your skull absorbing it, Mips actually allows for the dispersion of that rotational energy, because your head is allowed to move, so it's not absorbing all at once, right? So I'm going to keep playing the video. So the low friction of Mips layer enables a relative motion between the head and the helmet. And like I said, that's small, it's such a split second, but that reduces the brain injury. And you can see Mips on the left hand side versus Mips on the right hand side. And you can see from the top layer where the brunt of the impact actually happens. With no Mips, it's red versus yellow and green, which is what a healthy brain should look like, right? You can just see the difference. It's very common sense, and you can see the stress level. Red means bad. So we're gonna be talking now about, is Mips worth the money, okay? And this is obviously the part of the video you might have clicked on, but it's really important that you understand the science behind it, because originally as a customer, when I heard about Mips, I was very old school, thinking like Mips, like okay, like you see a lot of times where you think companies are just trying to get the money out of you just to pay more because it has new technology that can save your brain, right? And I never actually took it upon myself to actually do the research and figure out what is Mips. And that's what I really hope to do with this video, is inform you and educate you of the benefits of Mips, because if I would have known about these benefits originally, I would have bought it right away, because I value my brain and I value my safety, and I hope you do also, because it's one of those things that, you know, you can't really get back, and protecting it should be everyone's main priority. So this helmet, which is the Giant Rev helmet, Mips edition, in Canada, so these are Canadian dollars, but you can always do the conversion. This helmet goes for $199. Okay, so $200, and the one without Mips goes for $169. So for typical pricing, you're looking at a savings of $30. Okay, now let's do some common sense thinking, guys. Okay, is your head worth $30? My head's worth way more, and hopefully you value your head way more also. So I don't even think that's a question. Now, I can understand some other companies. I used to ride with a Specialized helmet. I like other brands as Oakley helmets. I like, you know, Giro helmets. I like all types of helmets from other brands, okay? So I'm not just Giant, like I ride other stuff. I use other stuff other than Giant. I just like Giant products for the value, and not sponsored, but I really do like their products just because of the value. So yes, maybe in some other helmets the price difference is a lot, but in terms of having Mips technology, I don't think for $200 for a helmet you might keep for 2 to 3 seasons. Especially Giant, from my knowledge, has a crash replacement program, so that's very good, because God forbid you do crash, you'll have the ability to replace the helmet. And for $200 versus $169, you'll be able to protect your head very significantly for $30. $30, not $100, not $200. We're not talking about like $600. And that's the thing. I like the Revs helmet compared to, let's say, an Aero helmet, because I like all around. I do a lot of different types of riding, so no, I don't think you should have to buy a $269 helmet just for aero benefits. So for $200 to have a helmet that protects your brain and will reduce the impact forces if a crash does take place, and Giant specifically does have a replacement program, like, I think that's a no-brainer, pun intended, okay? But let's say price is something that, you know, I've been there when I first started cycling, where I worked very hard for the equipment that I buy, just because I love cycling, and obviously if I use the equipment, it's worth the investment. But let's say, you know, you're starting out and you don't want to put in $200. Giant, as an example, I'm just using Giant. Other brands might have cheaper deals. Giant, you can get a Stride Mips helmet for $139. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, it might not be the most comfortable or the best for road cycling, but that's amazing. $139 and your head is pretty much protected. So when the question is Mips worth the money? I don't even think that's a question. That's a rhetorical question, where the answer is yes. Okay, I would buy Mips before. Looking back, okay, if someone would have explained to me Mips from the very beginning, I bought so much other stuff, guys. I bought jerseys before a good helmet, and this is what I mean. Mips has been around for a while, so I have no excuse. I bought $300 shoes before a Mips helmet. I bought jerseys. I bought carbon wheels. I've bought a lot of stuff before I've ever bought a nice helmet. And just knowing the science now, and now that you guys know the science, there's no excuse, okay? So, also I was looking at Giant USA. They're actually blowing out these helmets for $90. $90, okay? Which I think for Canadian might be an extra like 30, 40, but $90 US for a Mips helmet that's gonna save your head, I think that's a no-brainer, okay? And like I said, not sponsored. I'm just a man on a mission that wants everyone to have their head protected, because you know, it's dangerous out there. It's dangerous no matter what type of riding you do, on gravel, on grass, on asphalt. You know, anything can happen, and I really hope that it doesn't. I don't want anyone to experience that, but we need equipment, and I think every cyclist needs to be equipped with equipment that reduces the chances, right? So that's why I'm gonna get onto a little tangent. It's important to have lights. I'll get into that on another video. I used to ride at least 2-3 years without lights, and I didn't understand why. Because looking back, it's like you basically have on the back of your bike, it makes you visible. Why wouldn't you do it? So I really hope with these videos, I'm spreading the message of this slip plane, okay? you put it on, okay? Okay, turn the back, Mips, okay? And Mips is worth the money, okay? I know there's other companies that have their slip plane liners, okay, that reduce the rotational forces. By all means, go for it. It doesn't have to be Mips. I know Bontrager has one. I'm not sure about other companies, but I know Bontrager has one with their helmets. So at the end of the day, guys, as long as you're investing into something that's actually going to protect your head in case of a crash, that's all I really care about. And like I said, the difference in price is 30 bucks. So you gotta ask yourself, is 30 bucks worth it to me? Is my head worth the extra 30 bucks, okay? At the end of the day, I'll talk about other videos of what's worth your money and what's not worth your money in cycling, but after doing the research on this, because I just recently bought this helmet, okay? So this is why I'm making a video on it, because I just learned about Mips technology very recently. Like I said, brand new. I haven't even taken this off for the season yet. It's still winter here in Canada, but I bought it for the upcoming road and gravel season. And once I did the research on it, I'm a man of science. I can't excuse the benefits. So please, 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 guys, go out to your local bike shop or use whatever site you use on the internet, whatever bike shop or bike store you're online, and please throw out, or not even throw, donate your helmet to less fortunate or to wherever, because obviously a helmet is better than no helmet. And please do yourself the favor and buy a Mips system helmet for whatever type of cycling you do, and you won't regret it, okay? So that was lepedaler's review of is Mips worth the money, and is 100% worth the money, okay? So stay safe, protect your head, and keep on pedaling, guys. Lepedaler out.